The following is a presentation of Muddy River News.
Before I read a prepared statement, I'd just like to acknowledge the members of the Quincy Police Department, Adams County Sheriff's Department, and the Adams County State's Attorney's Office who are in the room with us. Lieutenant Chad Scott with the Investigations Unit, Sergeant Brian Dush, who's been heading up this investigation, Deputy Chief Travis Weems, we've got Sergeant Jessica Hollensteiner and Inspector Patrick Hollensteiner. From the Sheriff's Department, Pat Frazier, Chief Deputy, and Todd Eiler, First Assistant State's Attorney from the Adams County State's Attorney's Office. On May 25th, 2023, officers with the Quincy Police Department and deputies with the Adams County Sheriff's Office responded to the 1100 block of Jefferson to a reported shooting. Upon arrival, officers learned that Dana Lawton, a 47-year-old female from Quincy, had been shot. Ms. Lawton was transported to Blessing Hospital and later transferred to St. John's Hospital in Springfield, where she died days later. The Quincy Police Department Investigations Division led the investigation, assisted by the Adams County Sheriff's Office and the Adams County State's Attorney's Office. An arrest warrant was quickly issued for 19-year-old Victor A. Weems of Quincy for aggravated discharge of a firearm. On May 30, the warrant was amended to include first-degree murder. Bond was set at $5 million. In the following weeks and months, QPD detectives investigated numerous leads and looked into the whereabouts of Mr. Weems. Information was obtained that Mr. Weems may be in the St. Louis or Chicagoland area. Members of the Quincy Police Department traveled to St. Charles, Missouri on several occasions, working closely with the St. Charles, Missouri Police Department to locate Victor Weems, but were unsuccessful. Approximately 2 weeks ago, QPD detectives began looking into reports that Victor Weems had returned to the Quincy-Hannibal area. On January 1st, Inspector Patrick Hollensteiner, Sergeant Nick Highland, and Sergeant Jessica Hollensteiner of the Quincy Police Department were assigned specifically to follow up on this information. Due to their work, a search warrant for an apartment in the 3100 block of State was sought and issued. At approximately 1:30 p.m. today, members of the Adams County Special Response Team, Quincy Police Department, and members of the West Central Illinois Task Force executed the search warrant. During the operation, a female quickly exited the apartment. Upon entry, Adams County Sheriff's deputies located Victor Weems in a back bedroom inside the apartment. He was taken into custody. No shots were fired and no injuries were reported. Mr. Weems was unarmed. Victor Weems has since been transferred to the Adams County Jail. I want to remind everyone that Victor Weems is presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. It is often said that justice delayed is justice denied. The family and friends of Ms. Lawton have waited for this day far too long. Throughout this investigation, our thoughts have been with them as we work to bring her killer to justice. We continue to pray for Ms. Lawton's loved ones. We hope that this news brings them a small amount of comfort despite this senseless and tragic loss. The investigation into Ms. Lawton's murder is ongoing. Detectives continue to follow up on leads and look at information that comes in. That said, the arrest of Victor A. Weems for first-degree murder is a significant step in our investigation. I want to thank the men and women of the Quincy Police Department Investigations Unit for their diligent work on this case. Homicide investigations are complex and often frustrating, but our detectives have been steadfast in their resolve to find justice for Ms. Lawton. I want to thank Sheriff Tony Grutens and the men and women of the Adams County Sheriff's Office for their ongoing support and for their assistance with today's apprehension of Victor Weems. I also wish to thank members of the West Central Illinois Task Force and the members of the St. Charles, Missouri Police Department for their assistance with our investigation. Finally, I want to thank the Adams County State's Attorney's Office, Mr. Gary Farhall, and First Assistant State's Attorney Todd Eiler for their partnership as this investigation transitions to that office for prosecution. At this time, I'll take any questions.
Chief, you had said that that the officers who were assigned to follow up, was that before or after you had learned he had returned to the Hannibal Quincy area?
That was after we had obtained information that he potentially was back in this area.
Can you talk about disturbance from May 25th that apparently led to this shooting?
I don't have a lot of details to offer in regards to the actual disturbance. All I can and will say is that the investigation at this point has led us to believe that the disturbance that ultimately resulted in the shooting, we believe, is completely unrelated to Ms. Lawton.
She was sitting on her porch, basically.
Correct.
The woman who fled the scene, she connected in any way? Are you looking for her, or did she ever show up again? The one who left the apartment today?
Well, we're familiar with who she is.
Any more arrests pending?
I think in an investigation like this, when someone's able to avoid apprehension for this amount of time, we have to suspect and investigate whether or not that person was aided by anyone in their avoidance of law enforcement. So we are conducting those investigations parallel with our homicide investigation, and we will work with the Adams County State's Attorney's Office to determine whether or not there will be any arrests related to that.
Mr. Eiler, do we know when Mr. Weems is going to be in court yet?
He should be in court tomorrow.
Any idea why he came back to town?
No.
It was $5 million bond, right?
Yes. Is that correct, Todd?
That is correct.
But obviously, with the Safety Act, you guys will just be asking that he be held.
We will absolutely be filing a petition for detention.
All right. Anybody else have something they'd like to offer?
Just for clarity to your question, Bob, the Quincy Police Department has continued to work on this case throughout. So it wasn't just a situation where they obtained an additional lead approximately 2 weeks ago and then someone was assigned to it. I know from my involvement from day one that the Quincy Police Department has been working very diligently on this, and what the citizens of this county need to know is this is an example of the hard work, the dedication, and the commitment that all law enforcement have, because they have put in countless of hours since that day in May of last year. And so this has been ongoing, and I know this is a relief for them to at least have this part of this investigation completed, and now we can move on to the next. But this was not just something where it was sitting idle.
Oh, sure.
You receive new information and then somebody is assigned. They have been putting in countless of hours, and finally we have netted the result of obtaining Mr. Weems.
Understood. Thank you.
One more follow-up, Chief. Typically, when there's a shooting in town, you guys are pretty clear for the most part that these aren't random incidents. This is basically the closest thing we've had to a random incident because Ms. Lawton was just a random bystander, correct?
That's correct. I think when we talk about whether an incident is random or not, I think a lot of times as a society we think about somebody that's just walking down the sidewalk, minding their own business. Someone rolls up maybe in a car or walks up and either robs them, shoots them, something like that. So, you're absolutely right. This is probably as close as we've had to just a random incident where an innocent bystander was the victim of a crime. Obviously, the disturbance that led to this, we don't believe was likely random, but the result, apparently was. So, yeah, terribly unfortunate. As I said early on, gun violence is something that is just not acceptable, and something that is obviously investigated with every resource that we have at the Quincy Police Department, and we expect, and I'm sure Mr. Eiler would reiterate, is going to be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. So this has been an ongoing problem within the city of Quincy, and we continue to look into any incident of reported gunshots or individuals that are harmed due to gunfire. So, but we're happy to have some closure to at least this portion of this investigation.
Muddy River News. Our home, our news.